How do you define sanity within a human experience? What is, eh?
Yeah, that's a perfect opening. How to define sanity within a human experience. So welcome to Stargate To Source. I am Chrysilla Lewies and this is Hara Katsiki. We are both quantum healing hypnosis practitioners. And yeah, we just decided, we talked about sanity and where do we draw the line between sanity and when do you overstep that line? For many, I feel like, are struggling, especially with drugs, right? People taking drugs, that is affecting their reality. When we talk about subjects that could be a bit out of this world, you know, when it steps into the category of what some would say conspiracy theories, because it's something that is a bit out of this world or in a bubble that we as practitioners may come across with more often so than the everyday person. So let's start with that, right? So have you had people come to you that delve into conspiracy theories or into topics or subjects that you felt like, where do we draw the line? Where is the line between sanity and insanity? And I don't like the word insanity either, because in this multidimensional world that we're in, you know, who says something is valid or not valid?
Yeah, exactly. That's my question lately. It has risen unexpectedly the last days, and that's something I would love to discuss with you very spontaneously, and just sharing thoughts, experiences, and ideas from our sessions, from our everyday life, from everything basically that we experience, because this reality, as we are realizing more and more, is much more than what we can see, touch, and feel with our 5 human senses. Is much more than that. We are awakening as a race, diving deeper and deeper into understanding the nature of reality, which is definitely not just the physical, what we have been taught and what has been people have believed for thousands of years on this planet. So we are making steps into the unknown, basically, right? Exploring consciousness, exploring our abilities, exploring the spirit world, exploring the quantum world, and there already starts our mind. I mean, is bending. Already our mind starts to stretch. Already everything we knew starts to fall apart, and we have to allow ourselves new concepts, new ways of thinking, new ways of being, and this is very challenging, I think, for everyone who starts getting into this field. And I'm personally in this field for approximately 7 years, like really into it. And I recently started to have these questions, where we draw the line between sanity and insanity, quote unquote. Because, for example, if let's say we are spiritual people, whatever, we want to call that. I don't like this term, but just to explain. And we, we have already stretched our belief systems wide, very wide, right? And we hear, for example, channeling. We believe in channeling. We even do channeling for ourselves, for our clients, for whatever. And for example, if you take Bashar, many people know Bashar. Probably is a very famous channel, yeah, right? And imagine that you played Bashar to your mother. What will she think of it? She will think, oh my God, that's crazy, right? And we say, no, that's not crazy. That's awesome. That's like communicating with an extraterrestrial and bringing in information from the other side, from another dimension, and blah, blah, blah. But for somebody who is not there yet, he thinks it's crazy. So, and we are pushing our limits. We are like opening our minds, letting more and more concepts to incorporate with what we knew already. And I've been personally, I'm challenging my beliefs and my borders all the time, and especially with also what you mentioned with all these conspiracy theories, with all the different substances that people try. And especially these days, they are very common. Many like medicine plants and lots of substances people use to open their minds, explore their consciousness, and all these things. And then you open to a world where you might encounter things that you don't know, you don't understand, and this can be very challenging. I mean, literally, I mean, especially also for me. I just want to say it's also for me very challenging. Yeah. And then about the I wanted to talk to you about. I mean, you mentioned the drug. You said you talked about the drugs. So the drugs, I think, is a tool, and
maybe a shortcut.
yes, a shortcut. But like with every tool, I think it depends how you use it. You have to really know how to use it. There are some that can really open your mind to other dimensions, like the medicine plants, like ayahuasca, iboga, like lots of mushrooms, a lot of different kind of plants. But yeah, I mean, there's big danger there, because for me, how I perceive it is that you kind of push yourself into this experience. You don't naturally, organically, with your own consciousness, with your own ability, with your own vessel, open these doors, because your frequency matched, so you are able to tap into these dimensions and visit these places and experiencing them in different ways. You force them. You use an external substance, which can be natural, yes, but it's a crutch, right? It's like something that you push yourself there, and yeah, that's when I think that this can be, these drugs, these experiences can be dangerous, because you're not necessarily prepared for what you're going to see and what you're going to experience. And it can trigger different fears, different traumas, right? I mean, when somebody that is not aware of what's happening in the spirit world, suddenly is subject to entities, perhaps not benevolent. What do you do there? Yeah, it's a big question. Can really challenge you.
What I find is you spoke about Bashar, for example, and if you and I would watch Bashar, we would absolutely love that communication because we understand what is happening. And Bashar obviously took the steps to train his mind and his body to get there. I know, for example, that my spirit team tried to put me on the path to listen to Barbara Messeniak and the Pleiadians many years ago, and it just didn't resonate. I didn't understand it, and I thought these people were crazy, okay? And it took many, many years for me to be able to get back onto that path and actually understand what's happening. But that is a process, and that is something you teach yourself on this journey, to understand the ins and outs and what is involved, what is entailed in each subconscious, or, you know, when you delve into the unknown or tap into that consciousness. Now, I feel like when you get to that borderline, is it because people are naturally tapping into these things, into consciousness, into their amazing abilities, without being guided, without understanding what they're tapping into? And because they're not understanding it, and the people from the outside are looking in, or they're trying to explain what they're experiencing or what's happening, immediately it is that, okay, there's something wrong, there's mental instability, because your support system isn't there and you yourself don't understand what is truly going on. And that is where the two pathways could naturally split as well. So when I speak to these people or clients, naturally I would say, oh, that's normal, that's normal. I completely understand what's going on here. And immediately I can start seeing the unhealed trauma that has taken place throughout their lifetime, because as something happened with regards to what we would call an awakening, they were shut down, they were medicated, they were pushed into the dark side of the system because of the what we would call the unknown. And a lot of that could potentially also lead to the drugs and the alcohols and the addictions. So would that be where they may find some understanding? Is that where their vibration would be resonating at, because of the system pushing them into a direction, and therefore that is where they will meet the wrong people, if that makes sense? But what you say is absolutely true. If you're going to start taking substances of any kind, it is going to be a crutch. Your body is not going to be used to it. What are you going to be experiencing once you reach that level? Because it's all going to be an unknown. You're going to be pushed into something that, or into a place you've never been before. So that could either be really, really scary, and things may happen that may change your life in a dramatic way. So if you define what's borderline normal and what is borderline not, you know, when do you tip the scale?
Yeah, big question. Very, very good question. In our society, I mean, the system is just separating everything, putting a label, and at the end, they don't really understand the underlying reason why these people are experiencing certain things. They just have a list of symptoms and they just categorize them, and they give them some drugs just to, you know, basically to put them into a small sleep, make them like, yeah, zombies. And yeah, get rid of them because they don't know how to deal with them. And me and like you and like many other people who are diving deep into the soul are finding out that these are just traumatic experiences that people have and are still carrying with them, that they somewhere it distorted their discernment of what is real or what is not real, which is again another big question. Or yeah, I had a session a few months ago or last year, I don't remember, and there was a lot of very interesting information that came through. The woman that I had the session was actually a doctor, surprisingly, and we started to talk about, it came spontaneously, that because of the past life that she saw, because her past life, her guide said this is not a past life, it's a parallel life. And then they start to explain how um, that when a human who has a human 3D experience is able to perceive other lives simultaneously while he's living this life, the one that we live now, that we are focused on now, when you're able to do that, this can be very challenging for the individual, because you suddenly you switch channels somehow, and the realities get mixed up, and it can trigger mental disorders. So she was explaining, they were explaining, her guides were explaining how many people have been labeled as such, mentally disabled, with different kinds of tags, where in reality they are just tapping into parallel dimensions, other dimensions, and things like this. That they doesn't make them how to say balance. That doesn't mean that they can handle it. Then they know how to handle it. But there is an explanation. It's not that they're just crazy, let's just give them some kind of tranquilizers and there's nothing we can do about it. There's definitely a lot you can do about it, and that's what her guides were saying, that through hypnosis, through what we do with the sessions we are doing, the PQH and QHHT sessions, that you're able to tap into the higher self. You can get guidance there. How can you treat certain cases? How can because from that place you can, it's like you are communicating with the control panel so to say, of the individual, and from that place you can really make some changes or ask for some readjustments or explanation. This also already gives a lot of, already helps a lot somebody.
So what I was thinking about earlier as well is between the analytical mind and the creative mind. Would the analytical mind be as easily tipped into the category of borderline, right? Because they're constantly analyzing, they're constantly in the body, they're constantly in the brain. But now if you're losing grip of the reality, and if we are growing spiritually and starting to open our mind to an awareness and the depth of the universe, that there is no time and space, that in fact we are living everything simultaneously, and every decision I make or not make, it will be happening in another reality. We could simply or very quickly see how this can become very complex. And if you don't know your mind, and if you don't understand the different realities that one can be in simultaneously, there is a fine line between absolute genius and insanity. And it's about just that, taking that control of, okay, being aware of the amount of potentiality that I am seeing, or the amount of potentiality I'm seeing, and I'm not in control of any of it. And I feel like that is sometimes what tips the scales as well. I don't have control, so therefore I'm falling into the trap and into the darkness of people wanting to control me, where the other person, the empowered one, would say, these are my potentials and I have control over which direction I want to go into. And I know, in fact, for example, in the time that we're in now, people are noticing that the memory loss, I don't know if you have noticed it as well, Hara, that people find that they're not remembering as they used to. And it's scaring some people, but it's because of this growing into our multidimensional nature that we don't need to remember anymore, not as much as we used to. Our minds are now tapping into the higher consciousness, in a sense that if you think about back in Atlantis when we were communicating telepathically, now more so than ever, I find that if I think of you or you think of me, immediately that transmit signal, will be sending and receiving, and we would immediately be connected. And, and again, synchronicities are happening when I speak to someone and I say, you know what? I thought I had an idea and I think you need to start this business. And they were like, I had the same thought or idea today. And, it's like you are now tapping into an awareness of knowingness and connecting on a telepathic basis, so you don't need your memory as much. So if you don't understand that, if you don't have the awareness of that, are you tipping the scales to, am I going crazy? And I don't like that word, but it's the word that everyone uses. What can you say? What other word can you use? But what do you feel and find within your practice, within the people that you meet? As well as, do you feel like everyone should be, I believe everyone should be encouraging themselves to learn about the reality, about their spiritual nature to some degree. I feel there's importance there.
But, oh yes, absolutely. But at the same time, I think I respect the decision of an individual to not know, even though we fall into another subject of how much are they actually is this a decision that they made by themselves, or is it just a layer that is put upon them because of the matrix that we live in, because of the society that we live in, that is that we come in with this blank slate and not knowing who we truly are, and the system is actually how you say reinforcing that. So and it's putting so much fear on humans and individuals to not get there, to not awaken spiritually from all the system that we live in. So on the going back to your question, because this is a big subject that we could analyze for for a long time. Going back to your question, yeah, I mean, I just can say that I'm glad that we see that people are waking up day by day. Because and you see and we see that from the people that come for sessions, right, that you see that they suffer so much, they have no hope anymore from the outside world, and they're like, okay, I will try something different. I will go for a exploration of my human consciousness. I will go for a regression or for a, I don't know, whatever. hypnosis session or whatever that is. So yeah,
yeah, no support around whatsoever.
hmm.
Someone once said to me, I walked in with a headache and I walked out as a schizophrenia.
From a session. Eh?
Well, it's a friend. It's a friend, not to get too personal. And
Yeah,
it is the saddest thing to not see them having any support from the system, from the people around them.
yeah,
Yeah, and then quantum healing could be the very last push for them to really understand what's going on, to get a grip on the reality and actually make a living. You know,
yeah.
what is my purpose? What is the reason I'm here?
Mm-hmm. I don't know why I attract many people who are being labeled mentally disorder in different kinds of and different intensities, of course. Not heavy cases, of course. They I don't have very heavy cases, but like many of them, and also many people who have been using drugs. So especially the last year, I'm having more and more of these people, and especially the ones who have been labeled mentally disordered. Do you know how many times I'm just looking at them while they are sitting in front of me and they are just sharing their story, finally talking to somebody who they can really talk without being labeled. They can feel that, like I emanate that, so they feel safe to be who they are as much as they can. And not only is healing for them to talk without being worrying how they will be judged and labeled.
Mm.
Not only that, but they find me on the other side that I really understand them somehow. I can really see where they come from. Maybe I don't know the inception point of the imbalance 100%, but I really know where I mean I really feel where they come from. I can really feel them.
Yes.
And it's sometimes I'm really like drawn to say, hey, you know what, you're not crazy, everybody else is crazy. Of course I might not say that, but yeah, it's incredible.
Well, who defines crazy? Who defines the standards of saying you need to fit in this box?
Yeah,
You know, I
yeah.
recently, well, not recently, last year, I attended a conference with Mary Rodwell. And Mary Rodwell works with SETI in, Australia with a few, colleagues that is aware of what we do. I know Alison Coast there, Peter Maxwell Slattery is there. So there's a few, it is a amazing group of people working with like UFOs, and Mary herself has written a book called The New Human, and how people labeled ADHD, ADD, or what are some of the other labels that you get, Hara?
Bipolar,
Bipolar. So,
schizophrenic,
so
I
you
don't know.
name it, right? All these labels that are coming out. And she's basically written that these are the new humans being incarnated at this time to exactly not fit in the box that our system is designed to try and put us in, because they are here to break the rules, to break the system, so that we can actually empower ourselves and take our power back. But I feel that, in many cases, they are the ones suffering the most because of the labels and the judgments. But at the same time, they also have a very important role to play here.
Mm-hmm.
Because yes,
Absolutely.
who defines normal? Who says they're not normal? We
Mm-hmm.
just don't understand their type of normal. We don't understand what
Yeah,
they're going through, or the
yeah,
people around them don't understand.
Yes, you know what? I was reading before we talked today earlier, part of an expert from an interview with an alien, which is from 1947, when the UFOs crashed in Roswell. There was one ship, there was one extraterrestrial that survived. And there was one woman that she was assigned to communicate with this extraterrestrial and have a telepathic communication. From that communication came an incredible, almost, I think it's a book or something. Anyway, so I was reading about that, and she was asking him many interesting questions, but the one I want to say was that uh, she said, why don't you show yourselves here? Why don't you come here? Why don't you stay here with us? I'm laughing because his answer was like, do you think we are crazy? Or do you think we want to be crazy? And he was saying like humans on Earth are, most of them are insane. They are in a system that makes them insane. And it's really like this. I mean, I really had to giggle, and I really had to, and it was so I mean, so nice for me to read this, because also I'm thinking of all the star seeds that come in this planet, like myself and many others, who we come from a different way of being, and we come into this world, and we are being challenged so much. And yes, throughout my life, I have been often being judged as, oh, she's woohoo, like, just because we are different. So there's like this big gap, this of consciousness that can really like, yeah, distort the perception of reality from both sides. It's a challenge. It's a challenge for sure. Yeah.
So I had a session recently with a lovely lady and a friend now when I was in Canada. And for some reason, she works with symbols, and all these symbols started to come to her, and she wanted to understand what are these symbols. And when you see symbols on a piece of paper, you just see like a two-dimensional drawing. I see Pamela Erilin share symbols with her students. I see loads of people, a lot of people online there, when they do higher dimensional paintings, they paint all these symbols. And it was only when I had the session with her, all these symbols were explained, and all of them were three-dimensional. And it just blew my mind, because here we were trying to understand these two-dimensional symbols and the meaning, and our mind have these blinkers on. And I believe that nothing we see or perceive is the true reality.
For sure.
Everything that is perceived is through something that we in our mind can understand or put in a box that will make sense to us. So we never see our true reality as it is. And it took a while. It literally, I had to bend my mind to try and see these symbols three-dimensionally. And it was incredible. And I think now when I would look at a crop circle, I will try and see and visualize how it needs to be three-dimensional. And I feel like that is what they're doing when they communicate with us. When, you have these amazing crop circles where I live, and I'm definitely going to take more notice to see what is it all about? What is our reality all about? And I feel like when you observe more from the present moment, just observe the people, observe your reality in a sense that you're just not going from A to B. You're not just trying to get to your destination. Your life will become so much more than just now. Just, trying to understand it all. Our life is pretty amazing. Our world's pretty amazing, and it's more than just getting up, getting to A to B, going to work, come back home. You know, find that purpose in your life. What is it you enjoy doing? And if it is teaching, and if it is you getting these strange symbols and trying to understand them, or trying to find the meaning of life, you know, how do we encourage these people that are struggling with their multidimensional reality? You know, I find that just trying to talk to them helps, but you can talk to them as much as you like, but if they don't understand through their mind what is really going on, you know, they are really still in charge regards to how much they learn and how much they try and understand what is happening to them.
Yeah.
Because when they were at that crucial stage in their life, when they needed the right guidance, they didn't have it. So that has kind of put them down a rabbit hole, which they now have to get out of. And that is going to be a challenge within itself. But finding the right support system around you is of utmost importance. And what's frustrating about the world that we're in is the tutors and the teachers and the medical people, the doctors, you know, they're just sitting in an office and want to prescribe medicine, which they get commission for, which is, you know, not to try and cure us, but to just keep us on a pill, to keep us medicated, to keep us dumb and numb. So, you know, we are not doctors and we're not in a medical profession, and we cannot say to you, stop taking that medication. But I have observed people who have stopped taking medication, and they have gone from strength to strength. You know, just trying to claim back their mind, claiming back their reality, because the medication was just throwing them into a numbness, into a hole, which was just, they were just floating in it.
Even the validity they get through exploring and through what they get through the session, or through a healer of any kind that is there to compassionately and unconditionally listen and give them support. I think this is already like, it gives them so much. Just that. To have a caring individual, another human being who is really caring, to just be there with you and share the space with you, and they allow themselves then to open and receive the love. I think, I know it sounds very simple, but I have found out through my sessions that this is a big help. And also the information they are getting through the sessions, the information, the explanation of what is happening. You know, when you go behind the curtains in the backstage and see, okay, why am I experiencing this? What is causing this? This also is very healing, I think, and it's also very profound for them, to help them, if they really want consciously, then to make the step and bring more balance in their mind, in their life.
But it's going to be time. It's going to take time, and they're going to have to be patient with themselves.
Yeah.
You know, it took many years to get where you are today. If you are listening, you know, if
Not
you feel like,
necessarily. Yeah, you know, I had one case 2 years ago, a guy with severe depression, sorry, severe. He had been, I don't know how many times he tried to commit suicide. And he came for a session. He told me he was crying for 6 months in a row or something. And we do the session, and he has an incredible experience. His guides tell him that he doesn't need to take antidepressants anymore. He has to stop. And he stopped the same day. And we kept in contact for a long time, because I was checking on him and he was writing to me. He shifted 180 within a day. that was his case. That's not always the case, but you know, he found that one thing that he was missing, and it was so powerful that it, you know, he kind of like throw everything away immediately, and he's like, okay, now I live in the now and I look forward, and I'm, you know, that was impressive for me. I was really like I was very happy.
Yeah, I think, you know, many people are like that, where they will find themselves pushed to a point and they would say, it's either now or never. If I don't quit these drugs now, if I don't quit this addiction now, I'm not going to be here next year. I'm not going to be here tomorrow. You know, when or what is going to push me over the edge? So I have found that. But at the same time, I have also seen people who would just shift themselves so much and say, oh, I'm all better, I'm all healed. And sometimes, you know, that makes me a bit wary, because where did you just put all that trauma? What did you just do with all of it? No, you sit down, let's see what's happening, and let's see if you've really shifted this. But no, I think with many addictions, you know, food, cigarettes, alcohol, sometimes you just have to quit cold turkey and say, this is it. Can't do it anymore. My health comes first. And if I'm not going to stop, I'm not going to be here, or I'm going to just make myself ill.
So tell me something. Where do you personally draw the line in what is sane and what is insane? Where is your limit? Can you answer this question? And I am asking myself the same question.
Okay.
And I would like your perspective. I would like that we share and talk about that, because we are, as we say, we are really stretching our limits of what is normal, right? As we are entering a quantum world.
Yes.
And where do we draw these lines now? What and how do we we use our discernment, but how? What's your opinion?
Okay, so I feel like because all of us have such a unique life purpose, what I would find, you know, what pushes the limits would be completely different for me than for someone else, because their life purpose may be different. Personally, for me, I would say that I have friends that, you know, with the field that we're in all sorts of topics and areas of conspiracies, of the unknown, of ETs, of Middle Earth, of alien races, of you name it, okay? Where do I push the limit? I push the limit when it comes to deep conspiracy theories. You know, there may be a lot of truth in it. And there are people that are spending a lot of time and resources on trying to figure out or educate the people of this world what is happening. The big one now is 5G. And I think it is important to become aware of the health issues and concerns that this is creating. This is just for an example. And I also understand or don't understand why our government system is making this so that we are affected. We are going to be affected massively. Our wildlife and animals are going to be affected massively. We are now seeing bees dying out under these 5G vibrational frequencies that is being sent out. Obviously, I didn't educate myself on that aspect. So where do I draw the line with regards to taking back my control or giving it away to government conspiracies and trying to educate myself and then educate others? The best thing I can do is educate people on their own power, and knowing that if you protect your own energy field, protect yourself through your own positive vibrational frequencies, intentions, then nothing outside of yourself would be able to influence or hurt you. That is just my belief. It's a belief, right? But if you believe something to be true, does that mean that it is?
In your reality, yes, right?
Right. Okay. So if I don't put my intention on those topics, does it mean I'm ignorant, or does it mean that I'm just trying to not lower my frequency and go down that rabbit hole? Because I find sometimes that is what tips the scale.
I think that it is how I perceive it, is that you don't invite them in your reality, so they are not part of your reality, and they won't influence you. And if you become aware, and the fear sucks you in, 5G, for example, that is one more tool of the control system, the matrix that we live in. If you give them permission, if to affect you, of the 5G in this case, it will.
Exactly.
If not, it will not. We are sovereign beings, like you said. I agree, and that's what I live. And I think, yes, if we yeah, I totally agree with you. It goes back to taking our power back.
Yes. And if you think about, I'm not saying don't educate yourself, but if you look at 5G, what is standing out there? What do you see and what do you need to be aware of? I'm not saying delve down the rabbit hole. And the same with vaccines, for example. I feel like that is also a very important subject that has come up so much, evidence proven that it is actually causing a lot of diseases and making us ill, especially our children of the new world, So yeah, there are certain areas where I feel like you do need to educate yourself and not just turn a blind eye. But at the same time, I have found that people have healed themselves going for chemotherapy. Chemotherapy is extremely, it kills a lot with
Everything.
Yes, exactly. And I have known people to survive visualizing that chemotherapy going into their body and healing every single cell instead of killing it. It's the same when we work with water. Sending that positive intentions into our water changes the vibrational frequency of it. We know, for example, Dr. Emoto and the is it Hiroshima? The contaminated water.
Hiroshima.
So, is it Hiroshima? Emoto worked on a peace project, Save the Children of Hiroshima. I think it's Hiroshima. And they took contaminated water, radiated water, meditated around it, sent healing into it, loving the water, and it removed the radiation out of that water.
That's how powerful we are.
Exactly. And that is a project that's running today. So is your intention and your positive frame of mind all that is needed? So talk about what tips the scales for you. Interesting.
Can you specify the question?
Well, the same question you asked me. What do you define as, normal, and where do you find the point is for you, whether you tip the scale into, I'm now pushing the boundaries of going crazy?
I think it's I would say what you said in other words, more or less. So but just to say something, like I said earlier, I find myself pushing these limits wider and wider and wider and wider, and then I may make a step back, questioning everything, rationalizing and analyzing in a healthy way what I'm experiencing, what I'm receiving as information and everything, and then I'm just continuing to stretching up. So it's, for me, I think it's like a spiral which is just going higher and higher into allowing more and more how to say concepts and things to expand my awareness, my consciousness, my belief system, just like breaking a lot of limits. I would like to ask a question, since the subject today is mostly based in mental balance and imbalance and all the challenges of a human experience. What would you say to people who come and say, I hear voices?
Okay. First of all, what are those voices? Okay, are they positive? Are they negative? If there are voices, my understanding would be that they're probably not yours. And I know that all of us have energetic fields, and depending on your vibrational frequency, on how negative or low you are, you know, I have suicidal tendencies, I want to take my life, I'm on a lot of medication. Depending on how low your frequency is, that means that there could be lower vibrational life forms actually seeping and leaking into your energy field, and that could be the voices that you are hearing. Okay, so that would be my first thought, depending on what type of voices. Okay, but I would also say, don't always fear things that is unknown. Try and understand what is happening and why it's happening, because if you're at a very high vibrational frequency, what type of voices are you going to hear? Are you going to hear the voices of loved ones? Does it mean you are a bridge between this world and the spirit world? Because that's what I do as a medium. And, you know, if you open your perceptions on a positive frame of mind, you will be opening your awareness to abilities that may push you into a positive direction. Okay, back to the question. If you hear voices, could it mean there's multiple personalities?
Yes.
Now, yeah, so in a quantum healing session, would you communicate with each personality and trying to integrate them or understand in a way that you could separate them if that is what is meant to happen or be? Because you shouldn't have all of the personalities. So what are your thoughts?
I'm sorry.
No.
And what if I'm wondering if this voices is the higher self?
Okay, yes. So
that's where I'm getting.
Yes, perfect. That's fine, right? Because the higher self, it could be the higher self, because that could be your intuition.
Yes.
So how do you feel when this information is being received? And I feel it's, you know, the important message is, don't always fear what you don't understand. If you don't understand it, you know, put it to one side until you get to a point where you do understand it. But everything you don't understand doesn't necessarily have to be fear, because the fear is just you're not understanding what is really going on. It's just the lack of knowledge and understanding. I don't want to say fear of the unknown, but it is a fear of a degree, because you don't want to step into it. You don't want to understand it fully, because you may not be right for it. It may not be the right time. The higher self talks to us every day. It is our intuition. It's your internal guidance system.
Yeah. Would you say that you can also specify where does this voice come from, just to help some people out there who are probably hearing? When I say hearing voices, it can be thoughts that pop up into our minds, right? And my question is, do you think that depending on the type of information, you can specify where that might come from? What do I mean by that? So what I believe is that if the information that we are receiving, and it doesn't matter where it comes from. It can be from an ascended master, from a guide, from our higher self, from an old one that passed away. It doesn't matter. We don't necessarily need to put labels, but I'm talking more about the essence of the information that would specify um, and make us help use our discernment. So if the information is benevolent, is it loving? Is it
Yeah, does it make you feel good?
does it make you feel good? Is it like a suggestion, not a command? Then I think chances are that you have tapped into something that at least you should not be afraid of, even if you don't understand exactly what it is. I also find myself, since I started to open up and connecting more with myself and other dimensions, I find myself often having thoughts that pop into my mind that they are not necessarily mine, and we recognize that when that happens, because something you didn't know before and it just comes like that, and I don't necessarily know where it comes from, and sometimes I find myself not needing to know exactly where that is. It is it the higher self? One box. Is it the guide? Another box. Is it the angel? Another box. No, it's okay. It doesn't matter. Is the information expansive? Is it
That's
loving?
right.
When it serves you, then it's okay. And then we just need to use our own discernment, right?
That's true. As long as the information is loving and you feel inspired, then that is all that matters. The energy that you connect with should never leave you feeling down or negative or worse than, when the experience started.
Yeah. And I think that's a great piece of advice for everybody out there, whether they are junior in the metaphysical field or advanced. It's funny that you say that. I had a session with Brad Johnson 1 year ago, and that he was channeling Adronis, and I was basically chatting with Adronis, his Syrian counterpart, and he said something, and I said to him, "Oh, thank you, Adronis. Now I don't think I'm crazy anymore." And we giggled both, and then he said, "What's wrong with being crazy? That's what makes life more fun." Mm.
There's nothing exciting about being normal anyway. I find that people try and live this life of becoming an adult, finding the perfect job, finding the perfect wife or husband, starting a family, and then
Trying to fit in.
halfway through you hit a midlife crisis and you want to know what life is about. What life should be more than this.
Yeah.
But I think we had an amazing session, and I think we've left the session with some amazing advice and guidance. And I hope that everyone who listens to this video will be able to take something away from it. Do you have any last words, Hara, today before we close the session?
Yeah, I think we should be using our own discernment. We live in a world that is changing rapidly. The energies are amplifying more stronger and stronger, and we are all being challenged, and we are in the same boat with every single one of you out there. Maybe some in smaller boats, some in bigger boats, where we are all riding the waves, and they are very challenging, and so you're not alone. And it's an exciting journey. I think it's an exciting journey. We just have to have faith and know that we are in control, and we are the masters of our own experience. That's it.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Hara. Well, thank you, everyone.